They tell you your wedding day is the most important day of your life. They tell you it has to be perfect. They tell you this is your one chance to celebrate your love in front of everyone who matters. But here's what they don't mention. That perfect day you're planning, the one with the designer dress and the premium open bar and the live band and the venue that looks like a castle, it's not costing you $35,000. It's costing you $350,000. And nobody's going to tell you that, except me. Right now, let me ask you something. How many weddings have you attended in the last 5 years? 3, 5, 10? Now, how many of those weddings do you actually remember in detail? Can you recall what flowers they had, what the centerpieces looked like, whether the napkins matched the bridesmaid dresses? Can you even remember what you ate? I'm gonna guess the answer is no, because here's the uncomfortable truth about weddings. The bride and groom remember everything. The guests remember almost nothing. Yet couples routinely spend more on a single day than they spend on their entire education, more than their first car, sometimes more than their down payment on a house. And the craziest part, many of them go into debt to do it. They literally start their marriage, their financial partnership, their life together by burying themselves in a hole. And somehow, we've all agreed to pretend this is normal. Your grandparents got married in a church basement with cake from a grocery store and a borrowed dress. They stayed married for 50 years. Today, couples spend $35,000 on Instagram-worthy perfection and split up before they finish paying off the wedding credit cards. Maybe, just maybe, we've got this whole thing backwards. Let's talk about what weddings actually cost in America right now. Not what they should cost. Not what they should cost. What they actually cost today. According to the Knott's 2023 Real Wedding Study, the average wedding in America costs $35,000. But that number is misleading because it includes all weddings from courthouse ceremonies to million-dollar extravaganzas. When you look at couples having a traditional wedding with a ceremony, reception, and all the expected elements, the median spending is closer to $30,000. But the average is pulled up by high spenders. In major metropolitan areas, it's significantly higher. The average wedding in Manhattan costs over $70,000. In Los Angeles, it's around $45,000. In Chicago, $40,000. If you live in an expensive city and you want what Instagram tells you a wedding should look like, you're easily looking at $50,000 or more. But here's the thing, that $35,000 average, it doesn't include everything. Let me walk you through the costs that somehow never make it into the wedding budget. The engagement ring. The average engagement ring in America costs $6,000. Some couples spend much more. This happens before you even start planning the wedding, so it often gets mentally separated from wedding costs. But it's absolutely part of the total price tag of getting married, the honeymoon. After dropping $35,000 on a single day, couples then spend an average of $5,000 to $10,000 on a honeymoon. Because you can't just get married, you have to immediately fly somewhere tropical and stay in an overwater bungalow. Wedding bands. Another $1,000 to $3,000 for the actual rings you'll wear forever. Not included in most wedding budgets, bachelor and bachelorette parties. What used to be a night out with friends has become a 4-day destination trip. Average cost for the bride or groom, $500 to $1,500. Average cost for the wedding party members, $500 to $1,000 each. These costs are often spread among the bridal party, but for many couples they subsidize at least some of it. Bridal shower and rehearsal dinner. Another $1,000 to $5,000 typically covered by family, but often coming out of the couple's pocket or the pockets of parents who might otherwise be helping them financially in other ways. Dress alterations. That $2,000 wedding dress needs $300 to $800 in alterations. Nobody tells you this when you buy it. Marriage license and officiant fees, a few $100s more. Tips for vendors, expected but rarely budgeted. DJ, photographer, caterer, bartenders, shuttle drivers, add another $500 to $1,500. Day of emergency expenses. Something always goes wrong. Something always needs to be bought last minute. Budget another $500 to $1,000. When you add it all up, the true cost of a typical wedding is not $35,000. It's closer to $50,000 to $60,000 for a single day. 24 hours, roughly 12 hours of actual event time. That's $4,000 to $5,000 per hour of your wedding day. If someone offered you a job that paid $5,000 per hour, you'd think they were insane. But we willingly pay that rate to party. Now let's talk about what that money actually represents. Because the $50,000 isn't just $50,000, it's what that $50,000 could become if you invested it instead. Let's say you're 28 years old. You're getting married. You have two options. Option one, you spend $50,000 on your dream wedding. It's beautiful. The photos are stunning. Everyone has a great time. You pay off the credit card balance over the next 3 years while also trying to save for a house and start your life together. Option two, you spend $10,000 on a meaningful but modest wedding. Still beautiful, still surrounded by people you love, still legally married at the end. You take the $40,000 difference and invest it. Let's see what happens. That $40,000 invested at an average 8% annual return grows to $86,000 by the time you're 38. It grows to $186,000 by the time you're 48. It grows to $401,000 by the time you're 58. And it grows to $863,000 by the time you're 68 and entering retirement. $863,000 from one decision on one day. But wait, we're not done. Because the couple who spent $50,000 on their wedding probably didn't have that money sitting in cash. They probably financed some of it. Let's say they put $15,000 on credit cards and financed $10,000 through a personal loan. Credit card interest at 22% APR. Personal loan interest at 10% APR. If they take 3 years to pay it off, they're not just paying $50,000, they're paying closer to $58,000 to $62,000 when you add the interest. Now the gap between the two couples isn't $40,000. It's $50,000 or more. And here's where it gets really painful. The couple who started their marriage in debt isn't investing that money I mentioned. They're paying minimums. They're stressed. They're fighting about money, which, by the way, is the second leading cause of divorce after infidelity. So the dream wedding designed to celebrate their love is actively threatening to destroy their love. The irony would be funny if it weren't so tragic. The $350,000 number in the title of this video, that comes from modeling a scenario where a couple spends $55,000 all in on a wedding instead of $10,000, invests the $45,000 difference at 8% returns, and lets it grow for 30 years. The result is $340,000 to $380,000 depending on exact assumptions. Call it $350,000 as a round number. That's not money they're spending. That's freedom they're sacrificing. That's years off their retirement. That's options they'll never have. That's the down payment on a house or the college fund for a kid or the ability to take a career risk because they have a cushion. All traded for one party. So why do people do this? Why do intelligent, educated, financially aware people throw away hundreds of thousands of dollars in future wealth for a single day? The answer is psychology. And the wedding industry has spent decades perfecting the art of psychological manipulation. First, there's the once-in-a-lifetime framing. This is the nuclear weapon of wedding marketing. You'll only get married once. This is the most important day of your life. You'll remember this forever. You deserve the best. This framing is powerful because it contains just enough truth to feel reasonable. Most people do only get married once. It is an important day. But the leap from important day to must spend unlimited money doesn't actually follow logically. You'll only graduate college once, too. Did you spend $50,000 on your graduation party? You'll only have your first child once. Did you throw a $50,000 baby shower? The once-in-a-lifetime argument is selectively applied to weddings because it benefits the wedding industry. Second, there's the comparison trap. When you start planning a wedding, you suddenly become aware of what everyone else is doing. Your friend had a live band, so you need a live band. Your cousin had a 3-tier cake, so you need a 3-tier cake. Your coworker got married at a vineyard, so you need a venue that impressive. Pinterest and Instagram have weaponized this comparison trap. Every image you see is the highlight reel. Every wedding looks perfect. The centerpieces are always flawless. The lighting is always golden hour. Nobody posts pictures of the $3,000 wedding that was just as meaningful but far less photogenic. You're not comparing your wedding to what makes sense for your budget. You're comparing it to a curated fantasy designed to make you spend. Third, there's family pressure. For many couples, the wedding isn't really about what they want, it's about what their parents want, what their grandparents expect, what their culture demands. What will people think if we don't invite 300 guests? We have to have the reception at a nice venue, or Aunt Martha will talk about it forever. Your father has been saving for this day since you were born. This family pressure creates obligations that override financial logic. You're not just spending money, you're buying approval. You're avoiding conflict. You're fulfilling expectations you never agreed to. And often the parents adding pressure aren't offering to cover the full cost. They're contributing some money, but expecting a wedding that costs much more than their contribution. The couple is stuck paying the difference to satisfy someone else's vision. Fourth, there's the sunk cost escalation. Weddings have a terrifying way of spiraling out of control. You book the venue, which is $10,000, but now you need a caterer that matches the venue's quality, which is $15,000. But now you need a photographer who can capture the beautiful venue and food, which is $5,000. But now you need flowers that match the aesthetic of everything else, which is $4,000. Each decision justifies the next. And nobody wants to have a beautiful venue with cheap flowers. Nobody wants professional photos of mediocre food, so you keep upgrading, keep adding, keep spending. By the time you realize you're in too deep, you've already put down non-refundable deposits on half the vendors. You can't cut back without losing money. So you keep going forward, hoping it'll all work out. Fifth, there's the vendor pricing manipulation. Wedding vendors have figured out a simple trick. If you call asking about event pricing, you get one number. If you call asking about wedding pricing, you get a number that's 30% to 100% higher. Same service, same product, different label. Florists charge more for wedding flowers than event flowers. Photographers charge more for wedding photography than portrait photography. DJs charge more for wedding receptions than private parties. Some of this premium is justified. Weddings are high-pressure events with no second chances. But a lot of it is pure markup because vendors know couples are emotionally committed and comparison shopping less carefully. Sixth, there's the treat-yourself mentality. This is closely related to the once-in-a-lifetime framing, but operates differently. The logic goes like this. You've been financially responsible your whole life. You've saved. You've sacrificed. You deserve to splurge on something that matters. But here's the problem with selective splurging. The wedding industry is designed to encourage splurging in every single category. The dress, the venue, the food, the alcohol, the flowers, the photographer, the videographer, the band, the cake. If you treat yourself in every category, you don't have a small splurge. You have a massive expenditure that blows up your entire financial plan. Seventh, there's the love equation fallacy. Somewhere along the way, couples started believing that spending more money on a wedding equals loving each other more. That a $50,000 wedding is more romantic than a $10,000 wedding. That expensive rings mean a better marriage. This is obviously false when stated explicitly. Nobody would say, I love you $50,000 worth. But implicitly, the pressure to spend is framed as a measure of commitment. You only want to spend $5,000 on flowers? Don't you want this day to be special? This emotional manipulation is toxic. It ties financial decisions to emotional validation. And it makes frugality feel like a statement about the relationship rather than a statement about priorities. Now I want to be fair. I want to acknowledge that weddings matter. That celebration matters. That gathering your loved ones to witness your commitment has genuine value. I'm not saying you should get married at the courthouse in jeans and call it a day. Unless that's what you actually want, in which case absolutely do that and invest the difference. But let's talk about when spending more on a wedding might actually make sense. If your parents are paying for the entire thing with money that wouldn't otherwise come to you, the calculus changes. If your father has been saving for your wedding since you were born and this is important to him, and he's covering everything, the opportunity cost is different. You're not trading your retirement for a party, you're accepting a gift that brings your parents joy. However, be careful here. Many parents offer to help with the wedding without defining exactly how much. Couples plan a wedding assuming full parental support, then discover the parents meant they'd contribute $10,000, not $40,000. Get specific commitments in writing before you start spending. If you come from a culture where large weddings are important and expected, the social dynamics are more complex. In some communities, a modest wedding isn't just a financial choice. It's a statement that can affect your family's standing, your relationships, and your future. I'm not in a position to tell you those trade-offs aren't worth considering. But even in these situations, I'd encourage you to question whether the full scope of spending is truly necessary, or whether some of it is just expected because nobody has questioned it before. If you're wealthy enough that the money doesn't impact your financial security, spend what you want. If you have a net worth of $2 million and you spend $50,000 on a wedding, that's 2.5% of your wealth. It's not going to change your retirement timeline or your financial freedom. But if you have a net worth of $20,000 and you spend $50,000 on a wedding, you've just gone $30,000 into the negative. Those are very different situations. If the wedding spending is genuinely aligned with your values and priorities, and you've made an informed decision understanding the full opportunity cost, that's your choice to make. I'm not here to tell you what to value. I'm here to make sure you understand what you're trading. Let me tell you about two couples. Couple A got married in 2015. They were both 27. They spent $48,000 on their wedding, financed partly through credit cards and family contributions. They had an incredible day, beautiful venue, amazing photos. All their friends still talk about it. But for the next 4 years, they paid off wedding debt while also trying to save for a house. They finally bought their first home in 2019 at age 31, putting down the minimum 3.5% down payment because that's all they had. They're currently paying PMI and has minimal equity. Couple B also got married in 2015, also 27. They spent $12,000 on their wedding. It was smaller, less fancy, still meaningful, still beautiful in its own way. They took the $36,000 difference and used it as a down payment on a condo in 2016 when they were 28. They built equity for 3 years, then sold that condo in 2019 and used the profits to put 20% down on a house. No PMI, lower monthly payments, significant equity from day one. Today, Couple B has approximately $180,000 more in home equity and investments than Couple A. Same age, similar incomes, wildly different financial positions. When you ask Couple A about their wedding, they say it was the best day of their lives. When you ask them about their finances, they say they feel behind. They don't connect the two. When you ask Couple B about their wedding, they say it was wonderful, though they sometimes wish they'd done a few things differently. When you ask them about their finances, they feel secure. They have options. Which couple made the better choice? That depends on what you value, but you should at least know you're making the choice. Let's talk about what a financially intelligent wedding actually looks like. Because again, I'm not saying don't have a wedding, I'm saying be strategic about it. First, set a budget based on what you can actually afford, not what you think you should spend. If you have $15,000 in savings and your parents are contributing $10,000, your budget is $25,000 maximum. Not $35,000 because that's average. Not $45,000 because your friend spent that, what you actually have. Second, pay cash for everything. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. Starting your marriage with wedding debt is starting your marriage with a handicap. The stress of that debt will affect your relationship far longer than the memory of the wedding will sustain it. Third, prioritize ruthlessly. You cannot have everything. That's the nature of a budget. So decide what actually matters to you. Maybe it's the photographer because you want amazing photos to last forever. Maybe it's the food because you care about your guests' experience. Maybe it's the venue because location matters to you. Pick your top 2 or 3 priorities. Spend there. Cut everywhere else. The things that don't make your priority list get the budget option. Fourth, question every requirement. Do you actually need a videographer, or do you just assume you do because everyone has one? Will you actually watch that video more than twice? Do you need chair covers? Will anyone notice or care? Do you need a live band, or would a good DJ create an equally fun atmosphere? For every line item in your budget, ask, would I rather have this, or would I rather have the money? Sometimes the answer is the thing. Often it's the money. Fifth, consider non-traditional options. Backyard weddings cost a fraction of venue weddings. Morning or brunch weddings are cheaper than evening weddings because you're serving less alcohol and lower cost food. Weekday weddings are cheaper than Saturday weddings. Having a smaller guest list saves money on everything. Fewer seats, fewer meals, fewer invitations, smaller venue requirements. Are there people on your invite list who you wouldn't have dinner with one-on-one? Why are they coming to your wedding? Sixth, negotiate and DIY strategically. Many vendors will negotiate, especially for off-peak dates or if you're bundling services. Don't assume the first price is the final price. Some things are worth doing yourself or with family. Flowers from a wholesale market arranged by your artistic aunt. Playlists curated by you instead of a DJ. Invitations designed online and printed affordably. Other things are not worth doing yourself. Photography is usually worth professional investment, so is anything that would stress you out on the actual day. Seventh, remember what the day is actually about. It's about committing to another person in front of people who love you. It's about starting a life together. It's about the marriage, not the wedding. The couples I know with the strongest marriages don't talk about how expensive their wedding was. They talk about the vows they wrote, the look in their partner's eyes, the feeling of being surrounded by love. You don't need $50,000 to create that feeling. You need intentionality. You need presence. You need two people who actually want to be married to each other. The fanciest wedding in the world can't save a relationship that shouldn't exist, and the simplest wedding in the world can launch a marriage that lasts forever. Here's the real calculus I want you to understand. Every dollar you spend on your wedding is a dollar you're not spending on your marriage. Read that again. The wedding is one day. The marriage is supposed to be forever. Yet couples routinely invest more thought, energy, and money into the wedding than into the relationship itself. That $50,000 could fund years of date nights, couples therapy when you hit rough patches, family vacations that create lasting memories, a cushion that reduces financial stress, which is the #1 thing couples fight about. The wedding is the beginning. It's the opening ceremony, but the game is the marriage, and you want to enter that game with as many resources as possible. Couples who start their marriage debt-free, with savings, with financial margin, have an enormous advantage. They can weather job losses. They can handle unexpected expenses. They can have one partner stay home with kids if they choose. They can take career risks. Couples who start their marriage in debt, stretched thin with no savings, are one emergency away from crisis. Every unexpected expense becomes a fight. Every financial decision is loaded with stress. The marriage starts under a cloud. Which foundation do you want to build on? So what have we learned today? The average wedding costs $35,000 in direct expenses, but the true all-in cost, including ring, honeymoon, and hidden expenses, is closer to $50,000 to $60,000. That money, invested instead of spent, would grow to approximately $350,000 or more over a 30-year period. That's not money you're spending. That's freedom you're trading away. Couples often finance weddings with debt, starting their marriage in a hole and adding interest costs to an already expensive day. The wedding industry uses psychological manipulation, including once-in-a-lifetime framing, comparison traps, and emotional guilt to extract maximum spending. A meaningful wedding doesn't require maximum spending. It requires intentionality about what actually matters. The wedding is one day. The marriage is supposed to last forever. Invest accordingly. Here's my challenge to you. If you're engaged or thinking about getting engaged, sit down with your partner and have an honest conversation about what you actually want. Not what you think you should want, not what Instagram tells you to want, what you actually want. Maybe you genuinely want a big, beautiful wedding and you can afford it. Great, do it with eyes open. But maybe you realize that what you actually want is a smaller celebration and a down payment on a house. Maybe you want a modest wedding and a year of traveling before you settle down. Maybe you want to elope and invest the entire amount. Those are all valid choices. What's not valid is spending $50,000 by default because that's what everyone does, then waking up at 45 wondering why you're not further ahead financially. The wedding industrial complex wants your money. Your future self wants your freedom. You have to choose. And here's the thing. No one will judge you for having a modest wedding except people whose opinions shouldn't matter anyway. Your real friends will celebrate with you regardless of the venue. Your family will love you regardless of the centerpieces. Your marriage will thrive based on your commitment to each other, not your commitment to spending. 20 years from now, you won't remember whether you had peonies or roses. You'll remember whether you felt loved. You'll remember whether you laughed. You'll remember whether the people who mattered were there. You can have all of that for $10,000 or $100,000. The choice is yours. Just make sure it's actually a choice and not an accident. That dream wedding sitting in your Pinterest board, it's not just costing you $50,000, it's costing you $350,000 of future freedom. It's costing you years of your life. It's costing you options you haven't even imagined yet. Is it worth it? Only you can answer that, but now at least you know the real price. If this made you think differently about weddings and money, hit that subscribe button. I drop videos like this every week, breaking down the financial realities that nobody else wants to talk about. Send this to someone who's about to drop their life savings on a single day. And remember, the best wedding is the one that launches a thriving marriage, not the one that launches debt. I'll see you in the next one.